We're here with Carl for breakfast, a 3-piece that makes an incredible racket. I don't know how else to describe you guys, but thank you for coming in and making this appearance and performing for us. Oh no, we appreciate it, but I need to get this out of the way, because like the fact of the matter is that you guys are probably one of the most like hard-hitting bands on the scene right now. Like you guys are just coming together.
I didn't know that.
You know, I'm a professional. I will say it, but you would never guess that by like just looking at you guys. Because there's bands and you're like, oh yeah, okay, they're in that hardcore scene. But like looking at you guys and it's like, these guys are in a band? They're in like an incredibly hard-hitting band?
Yeah, not to mention, we like to write different kinds of stuff. We don't feel like for some odd reason, we don't even feel like we need to write one kind of song. Honestly, we'll do whatever the fuck we feel like. So.
And just like right now, like what you're feeling like is kind of that harder.
We can totally do hard stuff, eh?
Yeah, we don't really know what genre we are, so we just kind of do whatever we feel like.
We can honestly, we've written a lot of shit. Even in our old band, we just fucking flowed.
You guys played the Electric Sloth show, which would have been your second show as Carl for breakfast, and do you just kind of want to touch on the overall experience of that?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not that many people showed up.
Well, that was really disappointing for me, because I was going into it and be like, this is like the fucking line in this ground has been drawn.
I know.
And then
we always feel that way for shows.
And then it was like 20 people in a giant field.
It was fun though for that 20 people. Like we had a blitz honestly afterwards, and that to me made the show. Like I had more fun playing at shows with our friends.
Because like if you look at right now, there's kind of a feeling like in Edmonton that like we might kind of explode and become this like respectable music industry, and all our bands are going to be getting snatched up, like similar to what happened in Detroit, like with the White Stripes being signed and then like all that stuff. But like we don't have an audience.
It's a kind of weird mentality where it's like honestly most people don't really give too much shit to live music unless it's a big massive band that's coming in from like another city, or it's a big local band that like has exploded on the radio or not. You know, because I'm thinking like honestly most bands will only bring their friends and a few other people who've known them, whereas like a big band like say Christian Hansen, the Autistics, they can bring normal people in. They can bring people who would be like, I will work my 9-to-5 job and I will buy a ticket and I will go to that show and that'll be my one experience for the entire year, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're like kind of, I don't know how they do it. It's like I think they find a way to unify a lot of audiences, you know, a lot of disjointed audiences.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is what we need to somehow do.
I think it's something about the promoting.
That too.
So now is it more the band's fault, or is there just not too many promoters?
I think it's
like
just
in Edmonton right
mix
now.
of both. Honestly, it's hard to say.
It's a mixture of the bands and the fans, I think, because the bands will try. Like I've tried to get my friends to come out, and it's, well, I might be busy or this and that.
Not to mention, a lot of bands we found out don't really have like the understanding of how it is to promote or even set up shows. Like most bands will be like, let's start a band, let's practice, and let's put some songs out, and hopefully someone will find us and set up shows for us. That's kind of like their goal, to be lazy and let other people book shows for them.
But now you can't be that, because no one's going to give any interest to you unless you kind of already have done that legwork for yourself.
Yeah, like I think you need to do that legwork in order to get that proper mentality, and that will help you do other stuff, you know, other DIY things.
Yeah. So is that, like, are bands just not understanding, like, the business side of things, like the promoting sides? Because, like, I think it's really cool, like, the times that we live in, like, the fact that, like, every band's, like, kind of doing that, like, punk rock thing, the do-it-yourself thing, right? And that, you know, the cost to do that is cheap, and that they're putting it out themselves, but now it's not being well received, because they're not thinking of, like, the large picture there.
Yeah, I think they know how to do the basics, but they can't, like, push it out to, you know, get that 10 out of 10.
I think a lot of bands don't actually really realize how easy it is to just set up a show. Because, like, it's pretty simple to, you know, you call a venue, call up a couple of your friends who are in other bands, tell them to call their friends who are in other bands, you get 5 bands.
And stuff, just get people to do posters, just generally.
It seems that, like, you guys really put on a lot of shows, and then you're grabbing, like, the bands that, you know, I guess you like, or you like to support, and I guess you got, like, a poster guy, like, kind of the connections and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, like, is that, like, a role that you guys, like, are finding that you need to adapt to, because there's no one doing it.
Yeah.
It's more or less just dividing up the work.
Yeah.
Not to mention, like, no one else was doing it, right? We had, like, I agree, like, no one else was doing it, so we had to do it ourselves. And our other friends at the band, we wanted to see them live, but they couldn't get shows and they didn't know how to, so I was like, I'll do it yourself. I'll help you guys out, you know, just that kind of thing.
When's the recordings coming up?
I think we wanna write more songs.
Yeah.
And then, like, start doing that in September instead. I don't know. We were talking about doing a random video.
Oh,
Just
nice.
like not even like a professional. I don't even.
Not
know.
even like a music video or anything, just like a movie or something.
Just
Yeah.
like some random artsy thing.
Starring the
just,
band.
just for the hell of it, honestly. 'Cause
Starring
that's what we
Carl
can
for
do.
breakfast.
That's what we can do.
So it's more about like the experience.
Oh yeah, well we have future goals in mind as well, but at the same time, like right now I'm just focusing on the fun. What we kind of want to do is kind of like just take, since we kind of are starting to build a little group of bands who are all banding together and just playing shows with each other and our friends with whatnot. We kind of want to kind of like just expand that and start doing things for each other and kind of similar to what kind of Old Ugly does, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of a self-servicing thing for their friends and whatnot, and we want to do that, but at the same time kind of expand and encompass everyone else, all the other groups like Noise Bread, Old Ugly, the folks who put on those punk shows down
So
at,
kind of, I guess, kind of be like the super connector, because right now
Yeah,
there's a lot of like
a
little
lot of
scenes
stuff
going on, so
but
you kind of want
we
to,
want to find a way to connect everyone, if we can. If not, at least have fun playing shows.
like kind of getting the scene together, because essentially what you were saying is like it's about like kind of making the connections, and you were grabbing like bands, and then you kind of you guys had the potential to play like the show with like bigger guys, and then you started putting on shows and started to break into like other little scenes. So like, is that what needs to happen for the scene? And
yeah, I
you wanna
think that's
touch
what
on
we need to do. Bands need to like get out of that shell that they're in. Like they need to stop playing with their friends all the time and just kind of find ways to break into another side.
It's
And then just
grabbing different bands from different scenes and throwing them all together in a show.
and not even just that. Like even like it can be just as simple as getting one unknown band and throwing them into a scene full of a whole bunch of other established bands.
Yeah.
And that will do the exact same effect. You know, just as long as like once that band gets into that kind of scene, they'll understand everything. Like for us, like once we played that one show, the Russian Mixtape, once we kind of got on there, we suddenly learned a whole bunch of new people to meet to, a whole bunch of venues and whatnot, a whole bunch of different connections and little bits in here and there. You know.
Okay.
I have something to add.
What do you have
Okay,
to add,
yeah.
AJ Sharp?
Fuck Supernova.
But what the fuck? I know, right? It's okay. Tell me how the fuck this makes sense. You get these young bands and you're like, all right, you gotta give us money to play, and the bands are like, oh yeah, and they're like, okay.
No,
But-
the shows are free.
No, they're not.
But you sell.
Oh.
They aren't.
No,
They're not.
you gotta buy tickets to sell them, and you gotta sell X
It's a new
amount
rule
to
now.
get on, right?
Really?
So then,
Yeah, it's a new
so
rule
then
now.
there's
Oh,
like the
God.
battle of the bands. So then they, you get to record, but then they were like not giving up this shit, and battle of bands in general makes me mad because.
The shit is
Because
so
bands,
poorly
bands,
run,
I know, like bands need money. You put this character in front of the bands and you get them all to compete instead of like trying to like, kind of what you were talking about, getting bands to support each other. You get these bands to like fight for their $1,000 of the recording contract.
They're not with each other. They're against each
I
other.
know. So instead of creating a scene, they're battling each other.
Not to mention, it's like so poorly run. It's like, all right, the show's gonna start at 6:30 sharp. Dude doesn't show up till like 8 o'clock, and then the fucking sound's terrible. It's like at the end, the last couple bands get screwed the most. It's like, oh, we're so excited to play a show. You guys only get 15 minutes.
It's supposed to have a 40-minute set.
and
you
it's
know,
the worst.
It's taking
Well, that's-
advantage of local bands that don't know how to set
I
up
mean-
shows for themselves.
Exactly, right? Because it's all like, oh yeah, we can do this, and then they just get.
And the sad thing is like they will continue with it because even though everyone knows they have a shitty reputation, most bands do not know how to set up shows, so it's their only choice.
Well, and that's the thing. But
Yeah.
so for one, I think the audience needs to get some fucking integrity. Because if you're like, yeah, I agree, even on Facebook, if you're like, I agree to come to the show, like Electric Slop, 100 and something people, and there's like 20 people there, where the fuck are the rest of you guys? That's bullshit!